Life expectancy in the U.S. has been falling since 2014, and the average person in Spain will live 5 years longer than the average person in the U.S. According to the Mayo Clinic, one of our biggest problems is eating habits. My mom and a couple of my friends have celiac disease, and I have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, plus most of the 16 most common food allergies. So we are often swapping food recommendations and trying to figure out how to eat healthier despite our restrictions. Everyone has experienced a little bit of this problem, I know, from how can I eat healthier to what will make me live longer. It is something we need to ask nowadays. Studies that focus on longevity and dietary habits and the connection of cardiovascular health and bodily strength in old age, 50 plus, shows that adults that have a plant-based or Mediterranean diet tend to live longer and are able to fend off disease easier, meaning that implementing a diet of eating little to no red meat will increase your likelihood of living longer. I will be covering the effects of red meat, diet fads, the Mediterranean diet, and vegetarianism on the body and comparing them, what we can learn from blue zones, and comparing the cardiovascular health and bodily strength of a red meat based omnivorous diet and a vegetarian or Mediterranean diet. Let's start with the effects of different diets on the body. Red meat is beef, pork, lamb, and game meats like venison and rabbit. Gina Van Tom of the MD Anderson Cancer Center states that there are several reasons why red meat is bad for you, being saturated fats, heterocyclic amines, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. All three increase cancer risk, likelihood of heart disease, strokes, and obesity. HCAs and PAHs are probably the easiest to control as they are created by how the meat is cooked. So HCAs are from being cooked for a long period of time or consistently at over 300 degrees Fahrenheit, while PAHs are from when the meat strippings hit the heat source and create a smoke that sticks to the meat. So that means having barbecue, steak, and burgers as very special occasions, or ideally for your body, in my argument, no more of those three. We all know that fad diets are bad for the body and mind, but somehow they always get back into the public eye via promised get skinny fast tactics. Jacob Bernmeister's article Fad Dieting and Psychological Well-Being found that people who engaged more with fad diets were at a greater risk of depression, body shaming themselves and others, and eating disorders. On the better side, the Mediterranean diet is well known as one of the healthiest diets in the world. It is a diet of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes, with seafood, white meat, eggs, and dairy products as only a couple times a week. One study led by Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Murthy followed 25,000 women for 25 years and found that the women who committed the most to the diet had a 23% lower risk of dying from any and all causes. If you're trying to lose weight, the diet can also help keep weight off while also being sustainable for the body. Furthermore, a vegetarian diet has similar ingredients as the Mediterranean diet, but it excludes all type of meat. It also has a very, very similar benefits to the Mediterranean diet has, but you have to be more careful about your nutrition because people with the diet tend to have more vitamin nutrition deficiencies and rely too much on foods with too much sugar or salt. Next, I'll talk about a study called Blue Zones. Blue Zones, according to the 2016 article titled Blue Zones by Dan Butner and Sam Skemp, are small areas or regions that produce an amount of people that are reaching 100 years old at a rate that is 10 times higher than the average rate in the U.S. They found 5 places: Loma Linda in the U.S., Nicoya in Costa Rica, Sardinia in Italy, Ikara in Greece, and Okinawa in Japan, that are all similar in 9 ways, with 3 ways being related to diet. The first is that people who drink moderately with friends and food tend to live longer than people who abstained once they got older. The idea is drinking 1 or 2 glasses of alcohol with friends a couple times a week helps lower stress hormones. The other 2 is to stop eating when 80% full and to eat plant-based with only eating meat on an average of 5 times a month. Sardinian men are the longest living men in the world, and they eat legumes, whole grain bread, vegetables, fruit, and then reserve meat for Sundays and special occasions. In Loma Linda's Adventist community, over 80% of the people are above 50 are vegan per their Bible. Lastly, the people of Ikara eat the Mediterranean diet mentioned before, with whole grains, fruit, vegetables, legumes, and olive oil. In terms of health, specifically heart health, a 2019 article that spanned 29 years, published by the American Health Association, states that people aged 45 to 64 who completely stuck to an overall diet that is plant-based without refined carbohydrates had a 25 to 32% chance of lowering their chance of cardiovascular disease mortality, and all-cause mortality, compared to a person of that age range who has a red meat-based omnivorous diet. People who focus on restriction of animal food instead of a total removal have also seen a lowering of cardiovascular risk factors such as obesity, hypertension. If you're an athlete, having a plant-based diet also does not affect bodily strength either. Per Audrey Roberts' 2022 paper on the impact of 30 different diets on athletic performance, as long as you follow the International Society for Sports Nutrition's requirements, there will be no big change in endurance or strength. Athletes who have a red meat-based omnivorous diet tend to overcompensate protein and not eat enough carbs, so eating plant-based can help even out the nutrition. Lastly, I want to give some tips on how to remove red meat from your diet. The best way to remove red meat from your diet is to introduce a wider variety of foods into it. Exploring and trying out new recipes is a great way to do so. You should also swap out red meats for healthier meats like poultry and seafood. Start by eating a little less red meat and slowly replace it with the healthier meats. Then you can add in lentils and soy products as protein sources until they are your main source. Now that I've explained the effects of red meat and diet fads on the body, along with the effects of vegetarianism and Mediterranean diet, blue zones and why they matter, as well as a red meat-based omnivorous diet versus other diets just mentioned when it comes to cardiovascular and bodily strength, the studies mentioned focused on health, longevity, and dietary habits and the connection of cardiovascular health and bodily strength in old age 50 plus, shows that adults that have a plant-based or Mediterranean diet tend to live longer and are able to fend off disease easier. This shows that implementing a diet of eating little to no red meat will increase your likelihood of living longer. I believe I have sufficiently given enough information to explain why you should want to live longer and better. You should make the change. Switching your diet can be a big thing, and it can be challenging or scary. But even if you start out with not eating meat one day out of a week, it's still worth it. Making this change will help you live longer and move more often